Backlash in the US state of Florida. Immigration rules are being tightened as the governor tries to force undocumented migrants out of the state. A new law restricts their access to ID cards, which can prevent migrants from finding work. The move is seen as a preview of the hardline immigration policy the governor could pursue as he runs for the Republican Party presidential nomination. Nitza Soledad Perez has more.
Hundreds of migrants in the cultural town of Florida took to the streets in protest of a new law, SB 1718, that went into effect this Saturday.
The controversial law imposes penalties on Florida businesses that choose not to use E-Verify, a federal database system to check the legal status of their employees. It makes it a felony for anyone to knowingly transport an undocumented worker into the state. Hospitals that accept Medicaid and the government's health insurance are now mandated to share financial data on the cost of treating undocumented patients. Also, out-of-state driver's licenses legally obtained by undocumented migrants will no longer be accepted in Florida. Local organizations report that the passage of the law has prompted many undocumented immigrants to flee the state, negatively impacting businesses that have historically relied on immigrant labor.
Now, other immigrants at this rally promised to fight back.
Basically, I was a teacher for a long time, for 4 years, and I worked in this community specifically. I had a lot of students who were undocumented, and I know will be suffering the consequences of this new law that's passed. Also, parents, family members that I have, they can't be here, so we're here for them.
I am married to a Mexican guy. I'm Puerto Rican. I have citizenship, but I'm here to support the community of Homestead because I have seen how Homestead has grown agriculturally, construction-wise, and it's important that immigrants stay here because we need their labor.
More protests and walkouts by groups opposed to the measure are expected to happen in Florida this coming week.
While legal advocacy groups announced that they will be filing a federal lawsuit against Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, challenging the new law. They argue it violates the fundamental rights
of the people of the state of Florida. Nitza Soledad Perez, CGTN, Homestead.
Attorney Thomas Gross joins us now. He's a professor at the George Washington University Graduate Business School here in Washington. Great to have you on the show, Attorney Thomas Gross. Now, DeSantis warned with the expiration of Title 42, a pandemic-era restriction, the southern border would face huge, quote, huge problems. Is that the case? Tell us about the situation at the border and how this law seeks to change things.
Yeah, hi Sally, thanks for having me today. It's interesting that they were predicting quite a surge of migrants with the end of Title 42 and also what was called the Wait in Mexico policy. And both of those policies were initiated under President Trump. The Wait in Mexico policy actually was very controversial. It went up and down through the courts a number of times. And when it finally ended up with Joe Biden, he reversed it and also let the Title 42 policy to expire. The 42 title was dealing with COVID, and they declared that the COVID pandemic was over. So they expected quite an influx of migrants. And I would say sometimes they refer to them as illegals, but they're really not illegal because once they cross the border into the United States, constitutionally, they are entitled to make their claim for asylum. And it's a constitutional right of due process, and that right applies not just to citizens of the United States, but any person in the United States. So once they cross the border, they have that due process right. What was surprising is they just didn't see the influx. I mean, all the reports I've seen show that they previous to the expiration of both the Wait in Mexico and Title 42, they were seeing roughly 10,000 border crossings a day, but after the fact, they were down to less than half, in some cases 4,400 people a day.
Right, so tell us more about this bill that DeSantis is proposing or has proposed and has in some parts started already. Part of the bill that was authorised was this unauthorised alien transport program. Of course, we remember when DeSantis sent migrants to places like Martha's Vineyard. Will this program authorise more of these same sort of deployments, so to speak, to send migrants to blue states? What does DeSantis hope to achieve with this particular bill?
Yeah, that's a great question. And look, first of all, we start with the understanding that the immigration border policies at the border are really controlled by the federal government and implemented by the Department of Homeland Security. But once the immigrants are here in the United States, yes, states can get involved, and as long as they have policies that don't conflict with the federal policies, they're actually free probably to take steps, and that's what DeSantis has done. As your report indicated, this law creates a very unfriendly environment to the migrants in his state. And remember, they're not necessarily illegals, although they are sometimes called that. They are still waiting to make their case for asylum. So if you look at the economy in Florida, it's like the fourth largest state economy in the United States, roughly about $1.3 trillion. And the reports I have seen, unverified, but my understanding is the migrant population constitutes about $275 billion of that Florida economy. So if they start driving these people out, there's a serious question, what's going to happen to the Florida economy? Now, why is DeSantis doing this? He's running for president, and this is part of his platform. And this kind of anti-migrant policy has been part of conservative Republican policies for a long time, including building the wall and blaming a lot of social illnesses such as crime and rape and murders on migrants, when in fact most of these people are just honest people that are looking for a safe place to live.
Attorney Thomas Gross, really appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.